here in Santa Paula. Santa Paula? Okay. And your last name is pronounced Salais? Salais. Okay. I can't even. My name is Davenport, so I'm just like I don't even trip. I got the whitest name that ever existed for a Latino guy, man.
That's a Davenport salad.
Davenport salad.
There's a Davenport
couch. There's
a Davenport couch. Okay.
Well, I think in India they call a couch a divan. And yeah, so I'm just like I don't know what that has.
That sounds like Jason Devan.
Jason Devan. Oh man. Maybe if I were a little less machista than I am, maybe I could go for Jason Devan. And maybe if I was born in LA, I could pull off Jason Devan. That's gross.
Jason Devan.
So it's good to see you, man. It's good to finally meet you.
You too.
We're on the PlayMariachi podcast. I mean, I came out to LA to just talk to people and talk about the gig life. You know, I play mariachi music, and you know, mariachi music is not just what most people think it is.
Around La Central right here.
Oh man, so they're gonna be bumping it. That's awesome. So I mean, mariachi music isn't just one type of music. Like it's an overarching kind of genre. Kind of how you would say like, well, what's blues? It's like, well, I guess you could say blues is one part of many different sets of like jazz and you know all kinds of different stuff. And then you have what you do, your favorite music. Sones Jarochos, yeah. It's dope, man. I mean, I like listening to the music. I like the singing. I like the falsetto voice. I like the playing. It's a little more like how flamenco guitar and how flamenco gypsy music is to like Spanish zarzuela. And you have the jarocho to mariachi. It's always kind of how I've seen it because, like you were just showing, it's not just straight timing rhythms and beats. It's offsets.
Yeah, there's a lot of it goes deep. It goes deep real quick. Yeah, you know, jarocho goes into a whole nother
rabbit hole. I mean, I've heard a couple of friends talk about going down to Veracruz and like spending time with like Tlenjocani. And they just put you in a room for like 7 hours a day. They feed you lunch, and then they come back at the end of the day like, okay, how did you practice? And okay, that was good. Or you know what? Let's go back and practice again tomorrow, and then we'll see how you are tomorrow. And I'm like, oh shit! It's like jujitsu, man. It's like, okay, how's your triangles? How's your hooks? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of not good. Let's just keep practicing, and then we'll come back tomorrow and see how it is. It's like, so you got into the music first.
Yeah, I'm just. It started with construction, and I dropped out of high school like in 9th grade, so I had to get a job. My parents wouldn't let me just hang around the house playing Nintendo all day and Sony's, whatever.
Chilling.
So I started
eating cornflakes.
Eating cornflakes, and so I started, working construction. But my friends got me into mariachi, and I started playing in their group, and then I got into, went to all the conferences and everything, and I met Checo. Mm-hmm. Willie Acuna, and they were like my first jarocho experience. I was like, oh wow, I want to learn that music.
Those guys are really legit. I've seen Willie in a few conferences. Like just someone brought a cuatro. I don't know if it was his or what, but he just busted it out and just starts jamming.
That's my first requinto jarocho lesson is with Willie Acuna, my first one. I always tell him that too. I don't think he likes being told that, but I tell him that anyways. And then
broke the mold.
Yeah, and I used to ditch all the mariachi classes. So I was playing like in a student group, or I don't know what you'd call it, but it was like a
youth group.
Yeah, like a youth group, yeah. And I was like 17, 18, 17, I think, when I started.
We all get the same start, don't we?
And then, I'm a product of those classes, And we go to Tucson, we'd go to Fresno workshop, and I would ditch those classes. I didn't want to learn all the potpourris. I had a guitar, but I wanted to be a harpist at first. Okay. And I would go, and Checo was nice enough, and I don't know if I'm going to get him in trouble by saying this, but he let me ditch class and hang out because I wanted to be closer to Sones Jarochos. That's what I wanted to be closer to Sones Jarochos. And I knew that Checo, I call him Checo. I don't even know him like that, but
everyone calls him Checo. I mean, he's the nicest dude. But, he came out to teach our youth group in Phoenix.
I just don't mean no disrespect.
Right, of course. I mean, that's just what people call him.
Yeah, and so I met him, and he would let me hang out in his class because I wanted to be closer to some of the jarochos. And then afterwards, break time or after, everybody in the hotel lobby would be playing mariachi in a big circle, but they would be playing some of the jarochos over there, outside, out there, and that's where I would go, and that's how I got started.
Hey, when was this? We probably passed each other in a hallway at a time or two.
Probably.
This is like the late '90s or early '90s, or
maybe I think it was probably it wasn't that. It was after
like the early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Yeah, man, we must have passed each other a time or two in the hallways because I was in Chongos from like 2002, 2003 to about 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. That was when we were getting all of our accolades for like the 40th, and we're on stage with Cobre and the Camperos, and then we opened up for Mujer Dos Mil and for Vargas.
Yeah.
It was dope.
But the people who got me started from the put a guitar in my hand and showed me this is how you strum this, this is this strum, that strum is the Mireles family in Porterville, California, where I'm from. Born and raised in Porterville, San Joaquin Valley, just north of Bakersfield town. And
they like mariachi up there, dude.
Yeah, it's mariachi. There's a lot of mariachi.
They took us all the way out there to go play like a 2-hour show, just to play for someone's birthday.
Yeah,
it was a family member's birthday, but like, man, I was like, you guys want us all the way from Tucson out here?
There's a lot of gigging out there.
Yeah,
San Joaquin Valley. Mariachis and norteño too, and banda.
All the Mexicanos, all the Mexicano music.
Yep. And but my friend Tim, his whole family, my friend Tim Mireles, they're all really good musicians. I mean, they have like this crazy legacy with Los Gavilanes del Palapa, and they play but they're from Michoacán and from Apatzingán, and they play the Tierra Caliente style. They pull the hell out of the bass on the harp,
You can almost hear the plucks of the bass notes more than anything else. Right?
Yeah, they have that legacy, and they even have those voices over there. Like it's just a very distinct. It's beautiful. It's a very distinct voice. It's just like they. I don't know. I can't explain how the words explain it, but it's like even their rancheras sound like sones. It's like strong. Yeah, I really like it. And so they got me started, and then of course I got into some of that. I just like that. I like the improvisation. It's easier for me. People are like, a lot of mariachis are like, how do you do that? That's hard. I'm just kind of like, well, how do you memorize all those rancheras and everything?
And sones.
That's hard for me.
Patterns.
I can.
It's so cool you bring that up, man, because this is something that I've always struggled to try to teach people, right? And students in particular, because I know a lot of students are just like, they have to be down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, like robots. Mm-hmm. No, that's great. Yeah, you should definitely have the ability to have precision.
Yeah.
And be able to duplicate it. That's a part of classical theory. But if you can't improvise, if you don't know the scale and all the patterns, and you can't have that feeling of syncopation, which is deep in a lot of Mexican music, is that offbeat, on, offbeat, on, right? And so that's a big part of the music. And so if you can't put all three of those together, then, as a student, I tell people this is what you need to do, right? You'll excel at one or the other, but you need to have a little bit of all of it, and you need to struggle. Yeah. It's a struggle to be able to do like straight up improvisation, and then be able to take a lead sheet and then just play it exactly as it's written. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of that, and I'm just like, a lot of people these days, I feel like they're going more toward, well, if I don't have the music, then I can't play it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I mean, we got the recording. Do you want to hear it? And I was like, well, okay, fine. I don't know what's gonna. But they look at you like, what's that gonna mean to me? It's like, well, they're gonna listen to how this thing sounds, and then, okay, so let me play it, and then they can't copy what I'm doing, right? And they're like, oh, it's really hard. I'm like, shit. There's guys in Tucson, man, that are vihuela players. They could look at you play, they could listen to you play, and they'll play exactly what you play. It's like that drum line.
Oh yeah,
that stupid movie with drum line. He couldn't read music. He could hear everything and just start banging it out. There's guys like that, man.
Yeah.
Especially in our genre. And so you go. So this is crazy, man. I mean, like, I'm all the way up here in like north of LA. A good 7 or 8 hours away from Tucson, but you still find some of your root in your music in Tucson. Ain't that some shit?
Oh,
it's just crazy that it all kind of just keeps going back to like where I'm from, and I'm just like, I never realized. Like I said, I tell a lot of people I'm spoiled because I grew up there. Yeah. I just grew up there, and it was my family who played music, and it was like, you're gonna play mariachi, and that's it. You're gonna do something, and you're gonna go to school, and they have a program. And my mom is like, here's the violin, here's the trumpet, here's the guitar, there's the class. Everyone knew my mom. All the all the guys knew like all her friends, and that was it. I was just like, I was my mom's son, and I was a guitar player, and that was it. And so that never occurred to me that outside of my hometown, like it impacts like what you're doing today. I mean, we have your instruments here, so you went from playing, learning, developing a real big passion for Jarocho music and for son huasteco, and now you're building instruments.
Yeah, like I said, I dropped out of school and I got a job in construction. Like my first job, I showed up with a hammer in my hand, like, "Hey, can I work with you guys?" And they all laughed at me, like, "Well, yeah." And they had me clean up or whatever, and then of course, I stuck with it, and of course, then before you know it, I was cutting miters and all this stuff, And then, I got to the point I worked in hospital maintenance, and I feel like a lot of the maintenance men, they were my seniors, they were my bosses. They showed me a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. How to even use a tool or read a tape measure or whatever, a little bit of welding, a little bit of everything, anything that needed to be fixed, we would do it, But during all that time I played guitar, and I started looking at guitars and I think I could do that, My first ones are horrible. They're like aircraft carriers. They're huge, dude. They're all bulky and
really overbuilt.
Weigh like 10 pounds or something, And of course, I started looking at people like who just interviewed Tomas Delgado. I looked at his instruments, and that's a huge inspiration for me. Like his work is flawless, And I started saying, you could take off more here. You don't need that big old block of a heel right here like I'm doing. Where I can shape down my braces more, And then of course, and I was, reading books through all that whole time too. Like it needs a neck angle, doming of the top and the back, and stuff like that.
The arch, the tension,
and that's stuff that I'm learning now.
And then you get into finish, and it's like,
finish is a whole other one. That's a and I have a lot of car guys in my family that fix up old cars, and so they kind of like no, you want to use this or don't do it like that, or they point out everything.
Don't put poly on here. Or here's how you make it so it's seamless.
And the car guys like things looking deep, but I go no, but the instrument's different. You don't want that much on there.
You can't put so much shit on the guitar. It won't make any noise.
That's the difference. I think the only difference. And then there's the shellac finish too, which that doesn't really. It's not. For some of the Jarochos and that kind of putting that on it, you sweat and that stuff like dissolves, It's kind of so. If I were to do all that beautiful shellac French polish finish and give an instrument to somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, cool," and they start playing the first gig, sweating, and they'd bring it back to me and they would say, "This is a horrible finish. What did you do?" So I have to do an eye lacquer. Yeah.
So how long have you been building?
About almost 10 years.
10 years now. Okay.
I started like. I was 22, 23 maybe. I'm 32 now.
Yeah, we're the same age. So we fucking just passed right by each other.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. If you were there when Willie was there too, I was there. So we were all. I remember there was a lot of kids that were playing Vihuela that were like, they were like so. I was intimidated. I was like, oh, whoa, like
they're all little competitors.
I didn't even take Vihuela or guitar that serious when I was taking it.
They're into it.
Yeah, they're into it.
They're into it like kids are into football and wrestling, man. That's their whole life.
By that point, I was already like, I wanted a harp. I wanted to be a harpist first, and then I heard the requinto Jarocho, and I was just like, oh,
it drew you in.
Requinto Jarocho sounds like a little machine. I was like,
that was one of my first things when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and like my favorite movie other than Batman '89, the real Batman, was La Bamba.
Oh, La Bamba, yeah. I made a guitar for the guy who grew up in the house where they filmed the movie, La Bamba. It's right here in Blaine Street in Fillmore.
So it's here
15 minutes away
in the valley, right?
Yeah, it's 15 minutes away where they filmed the movie, in the house where the little screen door and all that.
Yeah.
He has a mechanic shop right down the street right here, and I finished the guitar like last week for him, and I took it to him.
Jeez, man.
So that's kind of cool, small world, right?
It really is. Especially when you do this. You're in the cult. This is why we do the podcast.
Okay.
This is the whole point, man. Like there's so many, being removed from Tucson, being out of the womb, and like there's so many connections. And it's like, fuck it. We got YouTube. We got all kinds of stuff. Let's just talk about it. I mean, bring the world in a little bit and show everybody like, hey, my whole thing is, I come across a lot of people, even educated people.
Yeah.
They say, oh, what do you need the arts for? what practical use? How are you going to feed yourself with an arts program or a multimedia liberal arts program? What are you going to do with those degrees? It's like, well, you're going to do whatever you can with them, without going through like the magnet program I did at Pueblo High School. I wouldn't know how to run any of this shit. I wouldn't know how to adjust levels. I wouldn't know music. I wouldn't have learned how to read music. I wouldn't play 7 instruments. I'm like, I put food on my plate just extra by taking gigs. Just playing whatever. And it's like, I'm not out there like you went to construction. I remember when I was a kid. That's my family. They're all like, blue collar, military or working class. That's it. So they're a bunch of hard asses, right? And I come along this little, I wasn't little. I've always been a big kid, but kind of like a seemingly dainty, gentle kid. Like a real big kid, but had a gentleness to him. And like they would give me a shovel. The shitty shovel. I don't even get the nice shovel.
Or you get the earned a nice shovel.
Yeah, exactly. And like go shoveling the rocks, and I'd have allergies, and I'm like, damn, this sucks. And I remember my tío one time told me.
Stay in school, huh?
He told me, he's like, you like doing this? I was like, no, this is really hard. He's like, you better, every time I come to your nana's house, you better be doing homework. Otherwise, I'm going to pull you and we're going to come work like this.
That's good. That's the best. That's the best education. Right?
Damn, learning, right? You learn quick. This is not my gig, right? And so he would always make fun of me. He still makes fun of me today. When I was in high school and I was playing gigs and I was playing those shows and doing all that stuff, he'd come over to my nana's house. If I was there, he'd be like, "Hey, you want to go work this weekend?" I'm like, "I can't, Theo. I have jobs. I got to go play gigs. I got to go do that." He's like, "Oh, okay. You're going to go sing Borrego Red? Okay, fine. How much you make singing Borrego Red?" I'm like, "I make about $50 an hour about them." He's just like, "Well, practice that guitar then. What are you doing talking to me? Shut the fuck up and start practicing, And even through college, all that. But yeah, this here, talking to everybody, to you, to people who are successful, people who are in their life, doing what they got to do, not just putting food on the table, but putting food on the table, doing what they love.
Yeah.
Even if it's not your primary gig, it's like all those programs, all that education, all that culture, all the history that, our parents, our grandparents, their great-grandparents, they fought to just hold on to those traditions.
Yeah.
Especially in this country, right? Especially in this part of the United States where there's a good portion of people that were stripped of their identity because they weren't white.
Yeah.
They were brown, they spoke Spanish, and they tried to bring their tradition. And I know California kind of has an ugly history of that, where in the 50s and in the 60s and the 40s, you couldn't speak Spanish in schools and in public.
My grandmother told me stories because my family's originally from East LA area, and my grandma told me stories like this was like in the 30s or 40s, they were in school, and for Christmas they got packages from the kids from Beverly Hills, and they're like, "Oh wow, nice kids from Beverly Hills are sending us Christmas gifts."
Yeah,
they opened the package, you open it up, and inside was a bar of soap, toothbrush, like shampoo or something like that. It's like you dirty little kid.
Biggest slap in the face, right?
It's like, wow,
And so it's important. I think it's important to hold on to the tradition, the culture, because our parents bled for it. And we can just take it for granted.
Yeah.
We can just sit back and say, Mariachi Cobra is always going to be there, and this is always going to be there, and there are always going to be youth programs, and there's always going to be guys building guitars, and there's always going to be the quinto and the jarocho and all this stuff.
Yeah.
No, not unless somebody knows how to do it and does it right. All of our legends and all of our teachers and masters, they're getting older, and some of them are starting to pass on, and you're like, shit.
Yeah, I look at that a lot too, and I don't tell my estimates that at all, but I look at that and I go, I better learn everything I can,
fast. Like I'm in a hurry now.
Yeah. And, but I absolutely do it because I love it too. Though. I absolutely love making instruments. Like when you go to bed and you think about it, you dream about it, you wake up in the morning like, oh, what if I try it like this, or
that's your life, yeah. I've gone to bed like dreaming about equations, but it's because I study engineering. And I'm just like,
oh, you're an engineer.
No, I'm about halfway through my degree. I've been doing part-time for a while. Okay. My first degree was in economics. So I already have a bachelor's degree in business and economics. I have a degree in music theory. I got a minor in Spanish. So I went through college. It was the Changos that gave me the opportunity.
Oh, that's good.
They gave me the scholarship. They gave me the discipline, all the connections. And then going to school at the U of A, that everybody knew that I was a mariachi. They all had seen me on TV and the concerts and the shows.
So it's already, you can't leave it now. It's already like, it's you. Everybody knows
That's
you.
part of it.
Yeah.
And the grown-ups and mentors and counselors, they all knew that. They're like, hey, this kid's coming in from that youth group. Okay, well, let's make sure that he knows what he needs to be doing, make sure he doesn't get lost, he meets the right people.
Sounds like you guys got a good sense of community out there.
It's big time. Yeah, I mean, it's easy for people to kind of go astray, especially in South Tucson. Yeah. It's easy for people to just like, well, that's not for me. And then, okay.
And get lost between the cracks or something.
Yeah. But if you're and it wasn't easy thinking about it, just like you doing this, there's a path you got to walk.
Yeah.
Even if someone puts the path in front of you, you still got to walk down that fucker, and it's not always easy.
No.
Right?
And especially when people, they'll poke fun at you, make fun of you and everything, but it's all because they want to see you grow, but they're keeping you humble too.
Keeping you humble. I mean, you have your shop here. I mean, this setup is awesome. It's like, so how do you go about your process of choosing what you're going to tackle? Is it always like a passion project, or are you mostly building for other people?
No, I'm mostly for other people. I wish I could just have like 4 or 5 guitars that I could just be like, these are just going to be, I have them ready when somebody wants them. Like everything's being built, for
as
somebody.
Ordered.
Like that Requinto Romantico right there's for like a guy in Santa Barbara. He plays this from Paraguay originally, and he plays harp. He's a really good harpist, but he plays Requinto Romantico too. So and he likes a full body one, so that's what I did. And this belongs to Jorge Herrera, and this one too. And he let me borrow. So we can have me. And so I never have anything like almost when I have it ready. As soon as it's ready, it's
being shipped.
Yeah, it's being shipped. Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of your posts on Facebook, and I think that's how we met. Like we added each other on Facebook, and I'm looking at your stuff, and I'm looking at like your build process, your rosettes. You know, I like how you have the rosettes here. There's a real old style look to it.
That's what. Yeah. This plantilla right here, this whole everything is of a. There's a man in Veracruz, Mexico, and this is actually Lino Chavez's actual instrument. I had it here, and I measured it, and this is all the same measurements from instrument that Lino Chavez had. And Lino Chavez is like I'm just trying to compare him to somebody in mariachi. Lino Chavez is like the godfather of like Requinto Jarocho. He's the guy who set the standard, to play Requinto Jarocho.
That's another big word that I talked about yesterday in yesterday's podcast, is standards.
Yeah.
So how do you go about, I mean, like you said, you've got 10 years, you're teaching yourself. How do you go about taking feedback, looking at other people's work, looking at standards, I guess you could call them, and like to your playing and to your instrument building?
I'm in this, we're smack dab in the middle, right here in central, Jarocho area for California, United States, pretty much.
This is the hub right here.
Santa Paula I'm 15 minutes away from everybody. John Robles, which is like my first teacher, and then he introduced me to Tomas Herrera, who's nobody. Tomas, to me, he doesn't play anything the same way twice. He'll show you something, you record it, you go home, you learn it, you go back. He'd be like, nah, don't play like that now. Play like this.
Try this one now.
Balahu will be way different than it was, and they're all great, but his whole family is great. They've really helped me develop a lot. Like all of them, Jorge Andres, Jorge Herrera, the dad, Luis Albino. And then there's the Morazas in Ventura, Chocoyotzi Morazas, helped me out so much on Requinto Jarocho, and they're all super nice guys. They could be so secretive and be like, oh, I'm not going to show you, because if I show you, you'll steal it from me or something like that. They're not like that at all. They're the nicest guy. John Robles is the same way in Ventura. Roman Moraza, he's a great harpist. He's a really good harpist, and he plays jarana too really well. So all these people, they come over to the house, and I'm very fortunate to call them all my friends, and and they come over to the house, or I go to their house for whatever kind of little concert is going on and everything.
So
and
you see
that's they learned, like Tomas learned directly from Nino Chavez, and directly from Huicho Delfin and all these great requinteros, Miguel Romero. You know, these are people from Veracruz, you know, and
I see a lot of the postings. And I think that's the one good thing about Facebook and people getting on that is that they'll be postings all the time of all the quinto playing, and I'm just like, oh man, that's nice.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for viewers of PlayMariachi podcast, the pick.
Yeah,
that's one thing. I don't know if they've ever seen that. Yeah, the puer, that is intense. So how do you hold that when you're playing?
I just tell people, like, just do the splits with your fingers, like for a peace sign, and then just put it between right here, and then put this finger, the top finger, underneath, and then pinch it with your thumb, and then pull these fingers in, and there you go.
Ah, okay.
So, and then you know. That's how it's supposed to be lower. Yeah. You know, but it's very.
So it's all just down.
It's a punteo. It's just da 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 da. There's some guys that are using it up,
trying to gain a little more speed in the back.
Exactly, because some groups play so fast that
they need that extra.
But everybody here who plays requinto jarocho, everybody here uses the punteo. I don't know anybody around here in this part. It's because, like I said, Tomas taught. Billy Acuña is a student of Tomas on requinto jarocho. So Yotzin, you know, a student, Jorge Andres, his nephew, so he doesn't know. He had no choice as a kid.
He's like my uncle. It's like, you're gonna work.
There's videos of them playing like good by the time they're 8 years old, you know. And then I came over here seeking all these people out, and you know, so now I'm a student, you know, and continue to be a student. I'll always be a student, and so I'm very lucky, you know, because they really supported me. Like I said, back to standards.
Yeah,
you know, like I'll do something. Like there was one I remember I was doing something on Colas, and I was going. Dude, don't do like Charlie, don't do that, you know. They're just like more, you know. They show me like do it like this, you know, and I change it, you know, and they're like, there it is, now you got it, you know. So that's like the standard, and then of course making the instrument. So I go here, I make this, check this out, I make this instrument, and they play it. And they're like, yeah, you know, like that.
That's getting what they want to hear.
Yeah,
they can feel it. Yeah. So you have templates. So how do you start your build process? I mean, it's kind of like a trade secret, and
there's no secrets in me.
A lot of guys have, but like for you, I mean, I have processes to how I practice.
Yeah.
So like when I'm playing with a group, you know, because you know I have like 3 different partitions of my time in my career that I have to manage, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the music is one of them. And so when I used to play with Tapatio back in Tucson before I moved to Phoenix, time was really not a luxury. And so I had to figure out, okay, how do I learn all this music? Because they're writing music, right? They're writing it out for shows. And it's like, okay, well, how do I learn all the music with as minimal rehearsal time as possible? Because I can't sit in a rehearsal for 4 hours twice a week for 4 weeks in a month. I'm like, it's going to kill my schedule. I can't do it. And so what I used to do is I had a process. I'd go through, I'd read all of the violin and trumpet, and then I'd go through and I'd start practicing everything on the vihuela to learn it. Mm-hmm. So now I have the time, I have the melody, and now I'm learning the actual stuff they want me to play. Then I would go play it on guitarrón for a while until I had that down. And then if I was playing guitar or golpe or whichever one, and by the time that came around, I'm like, I already know all the music. Right now it's just all the final touches, and then going to 1 or 2 rehearsals before the show and making sure everybody's got it and that I'm syncing with all of them.
Yeah.
So I had to develop a process out of necessity. And it's like, so how do you go in the last 10 years from building your first instrument, just trying it out, trying to figure it out, so now you have some time and experience, and I played your guitar, and I played the jarana, and they sound beautiful.
Thank you.
They sound good. They're not heavy. They don't feel like, like you go to some stores and some just random guitar builder has something up there, and you pick it up, You're like, shit, that's heavy.
And it's got a lot of polyurethane or whatever.
Poly all over it. My first thing.
It's a factory-made instrument.
Yeah,
they're great for beginners, you know.
Well, it's cheap. You're not going to get anything out of it, but like my first thing when I go anywhere, I just try to do that. I go to a guitar. I'm like, okay, there's some feedback.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, how does the bass sound?
Yeah. Let's get some.
Bass is coming back to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up and I'll try it, and then I'll see who built it and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, how do you start now your process? I mean, you're pushing forward to try to be the best you can be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to try to say, oh, I want to be the best, better than anybody, because that's not
right. I'll never be better than Chuy Hernandez. That's for sure.
That's not my.
I want to be the best I can
goal.
Be. Yeah.
You know, I see a lot of other luthiers, you know, Candelas, Tomás Delgado, and Manuel Delgado, and those. And man, I look at their work, and I'm just like, yeah, you know, I got a long ways to go, you know, because they do such beautiful stuff, yeah, how I get started is with, you know, of course, selecting the woods, you know, something that I like. I used to buy the woods almost already like processed, you know, like already
kiln dried.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. Like, I mean, yeah, they're kiln dried, but like it was, you know, already milled down almost to thickness, you know, and everything. And now I buy it like the actual stock, and mill it down myself and stack it, and you know, and it's already dried too as well. But you know, I let it set a little bit longer, and then you know, then I tell people, you know, see what I have. You know, cedar, I have, you know, spruce, I have, you know, walnut, I use a lot of walnut. I like using a lot of domestic woods. I just really think that we have a lot of beautiful woods here, and it's instead of like,
that's good.
Instead of like, you know, that's, you know, paying somebody from Africa to, you know, pennies to cut down their own forests so we can have a nice jet black piece of ebony or something. You know, that's it. It's fine if somebody wants it. They really want that on their spot. I'll do it for them. That's fine. But I prefer, like, I love walnut. You know.
So how do you use your fretboards?
What do you mean?
So this is walnut.
Yeah, that's walnut. Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that walnut is such a durable wood.
Yeah, it's pretty durable.
Like you can take it down because it has such a high density.
Yeah.
And it lasts almost better than rosewood does.
Yeah, I think maybe it might be harder than rosewood. I don't want to do all those experiments, but it's. I like it. I think it's really pretty. This fretboard's a little bit more. This guitar's a couple years old, so it's, I mean, you know, it needs to be.
Well, the first thing I noticed about your guitar, and I'll show the camera
a
little bit here.
Yeah, okay.
Oh man,
let's grab it.
Is the consistency. Now, you know, my thing is guitar. I spent a lot of time looking at stuff, trying to see, because I've bought some things, and I'm like, oh, that sucked. Okay, trying to experiment a little bit, right? And the first thing I see is just the consistency of your choice, right? Of wood and the grain and how it's formed, how it's flowing, the book match, the binding. You know what I mean? Like I've seen sometimes where bindings are like, okay,
this one's got a little bit of mistakes in it. I think maybe I was in a rush, but I mean it's. I mean, and the end result is you can play it. You know.
Yeah, and that's okay. So that's the first thing I always look for in a guitar.
Your voice, you hear your.
I want to hear the echo in the guitar. If I get up to a guitar and it's like dirt, I'm like, all right, why did I pick this up?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be snobby, but it's like, well, I mean, that sucks. All right, cool. Let's go see what else is on the rack. But then my first reaction, as soon as I get up there and I can feel the resonance coming back, the differences, you know. And you use a 3-piece back.
That's just all. I mean, I could do a 2-piece too, but when I mill my own wood,
there's a lot of ways to milling, right?
All my, you know, this will only open up the bandsaw will only open up, so I gotta get a bigger bandsaw. Is what I'm saying.
Ah, okay.
But I can also do a 2-piece back, but I run it through the table saw, and then I get a Japanese saw, and I finish whatever the table saw the blade can't reach, you know, in the middle. So like say it's an inch or something, I use a Japanese saw and just and clean it up, you know. And it's a lot of work. You know, in your saw cut, it has to be straight. If it starts going off, it's hard to go back on.
Yeah.
So you need your saw nice and sharp. And
my grandfather has a saying. I told you my dad and my grandfather were craftsmen. They were riflesmiths, and they use walnut too.
Yeah.
They use walnut for all their guns, and those guns, I mean,
yeah, walnut's beautiful for gun stuff.
He could. Blew the steel, everything, and then finished the walnut with the oil varnish finish.
Yeah.
It looks like glass.
Yeah.
Man, look at that. And I'm like, that's my family. I didn't turn out that way. So they tested me when I was a kid. So they had like a little piece of graph paper and a pencil. They gave me a pencil and said, hey, let's see if you can do this. Can you draw a straight line all the way down? And I tried to draw it, and it was like, yeah. It was just going everywhere. And I'm like, fuck. All right, focus. And I'd be, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it freehanded.
You should just put the paper at the edge of the table and just render.
I know if I was smarter when I was a kid, but they noticed that about me. They're like, okay, he can't draw a straight line. So it's like, he didn't get that gene. It's like, no, he seems like he's a smart kid. Maybe he'll figure something else out. So they didn't teach me any of that.
Yeah.
It's because it was like one of those things where it's like it's just either innate or it's not. You know, you can always teach someone something, right?
Yeah.
And so then they're like, oh, what else is he into? And then would notice that I'd always be just going to the radio and just turning on the classical station. And they're like, oh, he likes the guitar. Let's see what's going on with that. And so yeah, it's weird what you have to do out of necessity, right?
Yeah.
It's like your talent will take you to a certain place, but then it has to take you even further when you reach certain boundaries, right?
Yeah.
It tests you, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you have your machining and everything. It's like, okay, you're obviously talented, and then you get to a hurdle, a limitation.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit, okay, well, do I have the chops to take me that extra inch?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's dope, man. And so I see that, you know, economically, building a three-piece back is much, I think it's better, right? You don't lose as much wood in the process, at least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like how that would work. Yeah, I mean, it's only, so I only buy something that's so wide, and then, yeah, I can make it almost to the, I go a little bit over when I glue everything together, maybe a half inch or a quarter inch or so, and I put it all together, you know. Where's that thing at? It's back there, but it's like a little jig that I have with wedges and everything.
A little set.
Yeah, I glued everything like this together.
So, I mean, I know you're still refining what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But that crispness, right? I can't. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Drank too much scotch last night. I don't know. It just has that resonance and that response.
Yeah.
You know, I can feel things. I can feel a little bit immediately where I like this neck, right? Because this.
Oh, you like it? It's a little bit.
It's a thick neck, right?
But it belongs to my friend, and he's got big old hands.
This feels a little familiar. Like when you go to Paracho and you get a guitar there.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem going to Paracho is the lack of consistency. Like you could have two guitars that were built in the same time period, and one is right and one is that. And I'm like, well, is there a purpose? Like, nah, just that's how it came out. And you're just like, oh my god, okay. But I like that. I like the neck. I like because this is about a standard width, right, for classical.
Yes, it's about, I think it's 51.
So it's a little bit less, yeah. It's really nice, man. It's really nice stuff.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I would tell you if I didn't like it.
Thank you,
I'd be like, David, it's been great talking to you, bro. I'm gonna get back to Phoenix now. So what do you see going into the future, man? I mean, you're obviously going to continue playing. This is your home. You got the Jarocho thing down. You're continuing learning as a music student and performer, and then building instruments. Like, where's you're going to drive it? I see your Facebook posts all the time, and like, where are you gonna, like, what are your goals in building and gaining popularity? Because there's so many people, I think, that need to come forth. And you know, Roberto Morales passed away last year, right?
Those are nice. He made very nice instruments. There's a couple YouTube videos of him playing and making instruments, and
just in his mind, he knows exactly where all the cuts are.
Yeah,
it's like Jesus.
And I love his fluid way of working. I love that about a lot of Mexican craftsmen, is they're very fluid in their when they make things. It's just very.
It's like a cook.
Or something, you know?
Like a chef. Like a chef might be able to go to culinary school and be taught exactly 3 minutes, 5 this, that, the other. But then you look at guys like on that show Gordon Ramsay or whatever. It's like he knows when a steak is done just by touching it. and he can smell everything because he has an insatiable palate. He can smell, he can taste, and that's how I cook. I didn't learn how to cook anywhere other than my mom's kitchen, and so when I know something's done, I'm like, I just know that the chicken is done.
Yeah.
I never undercook or overcook chicken, and my wife is like, how do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I know when it's ready and when it's not ready.
Yeah.
She's like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm just like, well, I didn't go to culinary school, right? I went to college and the shit with everything else.
Yeah, some people are naturally very good with spices and cooking.
Yeah, you can smell.
Like,
You
it's
feel.
almost like
Watching them do that, it's like that's their kitchen.
Yeah.
And they know how to do that. It's like, so is that what you kind of hope to aspire to when you're building?
Yeah.
Are you going to get more
I
like
be more fluid, and I think I'm about almost 100 instruments now, or at least pretty close. And somebody told me one time that another luthier said, oh, you'll know exactly what you're doing when you get to. Because I don't know, he goes, 100's like a magic number. When you make 100 instruments, after that you become
you got a benchmarker?
Yeah, you become very like, it becomes not easier, but like you know where those hurdles that a lot of beginners are going through making instruments. Those won't be hurdles for you no more. But I don't know about all that, but I want to keep on. I'm not doing it to get popular at all. That's not my goal. I love to make instruments. I love making instruments. I just really do, and I get to meet some of the nicest people. I mean, you and I mean many others. The nicest people that come and they play them and they give me their honest feedback and I like that. I appreciate that a lot.
Have you ever thought about doing vihuelas and guitarrones?
I tried making.
I struck a nerve.
No, it's fine. I can't. It's hard. Well, there's two things really. I tried looking for tacote for the top, and I think you have to go to Mexico or at least Tijuana to go purchase it.
Yeah,
which is kind of it's about a few hours away from here, so
it's a sticky. That's a sticky proposition.
Yeah,
to go invest, and even buying tacote, you gotta. There's a sense like cedar and quartersawn and spruce, and I mean that's pretty relatively safe if you know what you're looking for, right? Tacote, I gather it's not that simple because there's a good possibility for tacote to rot quickly after it's cut and for it to have worms in it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In bad stock.
Yeah,
I was talking to yesterday at the podcast with Tomas Delgado, and we were talking a little bit about like how do you select wood.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was on camera or off camera. I spent the whole day there just talking, and he was telling me about stock that if you don't know what you're buying, you can get stock that's rotten.
Yeah.
And you'll start cutting it, and there'll be worms inside.
That's happened to me. I've gotten black walnut, live edge slab, and a black walnut. I thought, oh wow, it's gonna make great backs and sides and this and that. And I cut it open. It was termites just fell out of it.
Oh Jesus!
And but the good thing is the guy who milled it all, he just gave it to me. He's like, here you go. You can have it. See if you told me if you make something out of it, bring it by because I want to see it. That was like the only condition.
You just look what happened. I opened it up and just termited it out.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell him. I just,
make him feel bad.
I just told him, somebody, it was when the tree fell. I think I told him I didn't want to, make him feel like he was obligated to give me another piece.
Yeah, but I mean, you make the haranas in kind of the old style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that one's got like traditionally they're carved out of one piece of wood.
Yeah.
I make them like that as well.
Matched?
I make them like that as well, like a single carved piece of wood. Just when I can't get blocks of mahogany or whatever wood I'm going to make it out of, I make it like a guitar, compuesta.
I like that.
Mahogany neck.
I don't know what it is, man, but I like those the best.
That's it's available to me here, so that's what I use.
I mean, it has just that sound. Yeah. It doesn't sound like a shoebox, like where half the sound is coming out of here, and there's nothing back here, right?
Yeah.
Feel the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so man, I mean the whole thing about I like the aesthetic, I like the sound. You got both of those things going for you. So how would you go about making a vihuela or guitarrón, if that was something that you were interested in doing.
Oh,
Because that's a whole new world.
yeah, it's a you got the dome back. I've made the backs, like repaired a couple of vihuelas, and I've made the backs domed. I just kind of follow the taper on the side, and then I bend the back to somewhat about the same thing. That way, there's not a lot of, when you're gluing it, it's not a lot of pressure. I have some crushed in backs, and so we take that off, and I glued it on. I tried making a vihuela one time, and I didn't get the math right. Something went wrong when I did this, and I made the back, and everything was going great, and then I glued the back on, and I didn't know any other way how they do it, so what I did is I tied it with rope. And I must have put too much pressure on the back because it ended up cracking right here, and I got frustrated and put it away for like a long time. And I made the
Forget
top.
that one.
Yeah, I made the top just out of like spruce. I think I did.
I've seen people in Mexico making vihuelas out of palo escrito.
Yeah, beautiful wood.
Really nice wood, but then you get the instrument. I've seen a couple in stores. Like, oh, that's Mexican rosewood. Okay, let's see what that looks like. And you get it in the back. It was so incorrectly shaped and crafted and finished that there's no sound coming back to me.
Oh, okay.
I feel nothing. It feels like there's a freaking wall between me and what I'm playing. So now I can't hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, you just wasted that stock of wood. It should go on the fire.
I've seen. There's a lot of different qualities of vihuela.
Sorry, viewers on YouTube. We're out here. We're out here in live. People are like, "Fuck, that video sucks." All I hear is cars running around,
Cars and trucks.
Oh my god, dude! People on YouTube are brutal.
There's a lot of critics. It's easy to be a critic, anonymous critic.
Yeah,
like you watch your bigger. I don't even pay that attention. I don't pay no attention to all that.
Me neither.
There's a lot of people like that with Jarocho too. In the Jarocho scene, you got people that are like, oh, this style's wrong because it's got an inlay and jararanas and all that stuff shouldn't have inlays. And you got, I'm just kind of like,
who says who? What?
What's like? I don't even look at that stuff. I look at if you're good, you're good, and if you're not, you're not. It's just.
I like how you do the rosette too.
Yeah,
I mean
these rosettes are these are purchased. I can make them too. I've made them a lot, but a lot of people don't really seem to care. Like I make them. Like, I made that rosette. They're like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
And then I tell them, I bought this one. They're like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So I mean, economically for me, it's more. I can make. I'm gonna start making them again because I think it's just as a luthier, you should say, these are my rosettes.
That's your signature.
This is my signature. This is my signature. I think these are made in Russia. In Russians, I think there's like a whole clan of people up there that do a lot of marquetry and different stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a good way to buy firewood for your house, man. You don't want to starve to death. You got to do something with your hands up there.
Yeah.
And even in Spain, they sell rosettes out of Spain, like the Conde guitar shop. They have their version of what they'll sell to other people.
Yeah.
It's like it's not their signature, but they make the rosette. They mass produce them.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of stacking veneers in a certain way, and just to keep it simple, to explain it simply, stacking, and then you slice them, and you restack them another way, and then you slice them like bread. And then you get these little tiles, and then you inlay the tiles. But there's a lot of different ways of making them. That's not the only way.
I've seen a couple of videos of luthiers like Michael Timms.
Oh yeah,
he has a very interesting process for his inlays. He stacks.
He stacks them. Yeah,
and
that looks like a lot of work. We get to make all these logs and everything.
Because he makes
he's one of the better guitar makers and classical guitar makers in the
States,
in the United States for sure.
I missed out on buying one of his guitars when I was a kid.
He's in New Mexico. Huh?
Yeah, he's close.
Yeah.
His stuff is like when I was about 20 years old, 21. I came across a used guitar of his. It was Indian rosewood. It was spruce. It was a little used. The guy in the store he had it for $1,000.
Yeah,
which is really, when you think about, it's not enough, right?
Yeah.
It should be more. It wasn't damaged. Maybe it would be finished. I don't know, but I didn't buy it.
Yeah,
and I regretted not being able to get that thing, because then I've never seen another used Tim's go for less than at least $3,000.
Yeah, no, $1,000 is
that would have
cheap
been a
for
steal.
his instrument. Yeah,
and I saw the videos that he puts out, and he makes a stack for that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
but that stack probably lasts him.
He's super efficient too.
Years, right? Like years and years from that one stack, that rosette. Because he makes them like this big, and he cooks them, and he puts them in his kitchen oven.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're talking about an inlay that's just millimeters, thick or less, just shaving going in, right? It's like, how long does that big stack last you? Like, must last you a couple hundred instruments.
Maybe, yeah. But that guy is super efficient. I don't know how he builds it. It's like, I think he's done like 900 or 1,000 guitars.
And he had the same start as you. He was a young kid that just loved the guitar and got a book one day and bought a guitar, and he just started doing it. And now he's one of the best U.S. builders out there.
Yeah, he's super efficient and very and he could do like an exact replica of a classical, an old Herman Hauser could do it. It's amazing.
I'd like to buy one of his instruments one day.
Oh, that would be, bring it back because I want to see it.
Yeah, if I find out, I like to go hunting. I'm not going to have time this trip. I'm thinking about going home after this podcast.
Yeah.
From here, it's about a 7.5 hour drive, straight shot.
Yeah.
We're getting old, man. I mean, these early 30s. Shit.
Yeah. Traveling long 3 hours is my limit.
That's your limit. Yeah, I'm like, I could probably drive.
Vegas is my limit.
Vegas and back. That's it. I'm like, I used to be able to knock out trips like that, like nothing, and then still go do the rest of my shit. Now I'm like, I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, I gotta go train in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It hurt a little bit. I was just like, okay, I'm still in my prime. I can still do this, but 7-hour drive right back to Phoenix. I'm like, maybe I'll get a hotel in Blythe or something like that. Just 4 hours.
The desert too. For some reason, it feels like it takes way longer to drive through the desert.
It does. It feels like you're gonna die.
It feels like what is this?
Yeah. I just see. Okay, after that mountain, 2 hours later. After that mountain, 2 hours later. After this mountain,
the horizon's so.
Like, I see how people can lose their mind out there.
Yeah.
Because it's also like being in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
That's the gig life. That's the music life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Driving to LA, driving to San Diego, to New Mexico, Las Cruces.
Yeah.
And all from Tucson.
Yeah.
You just go and you just go.
So some people want to be professional musicians, but it takes
a toll.
Yeah.
It's a cost.
Yeah. Definitely.
I like it. But now that I'm getting older, I'm just like, can I make that 7-hour drive right now? I'm thinking about that a little bit. Fuck that. We're here right now. I'll stay here as long as I need to. I'll crash out in my car and halfway out.
Stay here. I'm going to stay here. Yeah.
So for the music, since you're not just an instrument builder, you started out as a musician first, and I think we might. I don't want to wrap this up, but my battery life will eventually die.
Okay.
The music, Jarocho, the son huasteco. Like, how do you see that crossing over into the United States and being tradition?
There's a long history here in California. I'm sorry to hear.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead. I mean, tradition versus like 2019. Like, where is it at? Where is it going?
I mean, so you want to start from the beginning. I mean, Andres Huesca used to come up here. Andres Huesca is like one of the first people to be on the movies in Mexican cinema, and of course, all those movies were being played in LA with all the large Mexican.
Yeah, the migrant workers and all that kind of stuff.
And I mean, some of these people were there before. California was just still Mexico, and they just happened to become a part of the United States.
Just the line changed, like, hey,
the line changed, and they were still, and so they still had Mexican, heritage from then, and so they would watch all the Mexican cinema there in LA, and they would see the harpist Andres Huesca, and Jorge Negrete along with them, and Pedro Infante, but Andres Huesca was in there, of course. And so he would, of course, we want to hear this guy, so they would, he'd get gigs up here playing music. And Andres Huesca came over here, and he even passed away in LA. That's how much he was up here,
Shit. Home away from home.
Yeah, and of course that sparked Chicano groups to start playing Sones Jarochos, and they started. Los Lobos are like, and Guayapan, and the Morazas, and it just goes on and on and on down, lineage, and then they're teaching
what they
other
learned.
people, like I said earlier, like Willie Acuna, and then me,
Yeah.
and so that's.
You're now becoming, like I was talking about mariachi music, it's like we're becoming stewards of the culture now.
Yeah.
It's like given enough time and practice and learning, I mean, you never stop learning. I mean, that's one thing jiu-jitsu teaches you, you know, that teaches you that really quickly. It's like, oh, I got a triangle. I'm good. Like, no, you're not. There's 50 million different ways you can get triangles.
Yeah.
You can master them all. It's like, I got one. I got one down. All right, 50 million more to go. Good luck. And so, so now keeping the tradition, it's like, are you going to be teaching? Are you going to be performing? And how do you make what they taught you not only yours, but deal with this contemporary wave of Facebook, YouTube, all this stuff, man? It puts it out there. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of risk for something to get lost in the translation, right? Yeah. So how do you, is that something that you think about, and what do you see happening so that doesn't happen?
Well, as far as like the music goes, I would like to be one day, you know, just playing. I like to play because I love this instrument, but maybe one day, you know, there will be another wave of kids, and I'll be old, and I'll be like, this is how this is how you do it, you know, or this is how you do it. I don't know if I'll ever be as good as Tomas or these other guys that are playing, but you know, I would like to know enough to be able to say, I can show you how
pass
to do
down.
it. Yeah,
spark some kids' interest and keep that going another generation.
Yeah, and all those people. And then as far as making instruments, I would love to teach people. You know, I would love to be able to. I mean, there's young guys out there holding, you know, classes. Guys my age, you know, doing, you know, classes more back east though, like, you know, still string guitars and you know, they copy Martins and all that stuff. But I really like.
I think the camera just died. See what I was talking about?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's all good. I just plopped the rest of it in. That's why I have two modes of failure here. The recording stays on and the camera dies.
Oh, okay.
And you know, I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not Joe Rogan yet, so I can't. I have to buy a new camera at a certain point this year.
You want to charge it or?
No, it won't do the same thing. It'll be all right. We have the audio.
Oh, the audio.
Yeah, we still have the audio. I'm sorry. Finish your story. Finish what you're talking about.
So anyway, you know, the building the instruments part, I would love to be able to pass that on to somebody, you know. But nobody's really come, you know, like, hey, you know, come on, David, let me help you. Let me show you. You know, show me how to build an instrument. I want to build one too. You know, I'll be like, let's build another bench. We'll put it right here. Let's, you know,
get going.
Yeah, get going. You know, maybe we could start a company or something. You know,
get your brand.
Yeah, get my brand, and then, you know. But it's the people in like in Veracruz too are super generous. I mean, they show me a lot of stuff, and like Los Ochoa. Tito Ochoa is my friend in Veracruz. When I go to Veracruz, I stay at his place, and he introduced me to all the musicians over there. And he's related to the Ochoas, Felipe Ochoa. His dad's Marcos Ochoa. That's Conjunto Chalchihuecan right there. Man. That's like one of the, to me, like that's one of the main staples of Jarocho music. I mean, nobody plays like Felipe Ochoa. Ta, 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 ta. And in the Chavas too, Chava Peña, he played on Monarcas de Papaloapan, and Chava Peña's and his sons are great musicians as well. And Chava Peña is a master improviser of verses. I mean, he can make up a verse right on the spot of a situation on hand, whatever's going on. You know,
almost like a flamenco picado guitarist, right?
Yep. And he can make a verse. He's a verse. You know, and they're from Mata Clara, so they took me up to Mata Clara, where it's Yanga, Veracruz, Mata Clara, and all that is all African descent. A lot of African slaves went up into that area, and he wanted to show me that look at this part of Mexico. You know, and I was very fortunate to
call and response aspect of the music.
Yeah, you know, and I was very fortunate to go up there and experience that culture. You know, up there, and you know, and in Puerto de Veracruz with Los Ochoa, you know, and Tito Ochoa and requinto Jarocho. I'll send me some YouTube links. It's just, he's just a fun. He's probably one of the top 5, you know, for me, requinto players, you know.
Yeah. We should make, as links to this podcast video, so send me some of those links. I'll link them all in the description, and some history and some performances.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep it updated, man. And just like, this is another facet of Mexican folk music. Not just mariachi, not just banda, not just whatever, but there's a genre here that, you know, deserves its respect and its place, and it has it.
Yeah.
And now that the market in the U.S. is what it is, and it's expanding and growing, and you got young Chicano students or young OTMs other than Mexican that love to play the music too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
There's only one way for it to go, and it's just to continue growing. I don't see it ever stopping. Well, David, any last words before I go to Best Buy to buy a new camera so that I can actually seem like a professional when I'm coming out here to do this shit?
No, it's just no last words. You know, just other than, you know, yeah, keep it going. Let's keep it going. You know, I hope there's more people that get more interest in requinto jarocho. There's not a lot of people who play this instrument. Not very many at all.
Yeah, even less than cuatro or even other things like that too.
Like maybe like 50 people play requinto jarocho. I don't know. There's not very many that play in this style. You know, not a lot. You know, it's a beautiful instrument. But yeah, the history goes deep here in California with jarocho music. My great grandfather, like I said, they came from, you know, from northern Mexico, and they settled in East LA, and he liked sones jarochos. Like, how did he like sones jarochos? I mean, that's such a world away, you know. But then it wasn't until I moved over here and I met all the musicians locally around here that knew a lot of the history, and they would tell me you know, Andres Huesca came up here, and all these different Lalo Montaner and all these different musicians came around here and played in LA, and I go, well, that's how that's how I knew it. I was able to connect the dots, you know, so it is cool. So
nice. David, thanks for having me in your home and your shop.
Yeah.
Talking about, well, we call it PlayMariachi, but it's really just talking about the gig life, the culture, building, keeping the tradition alive, staying, you know, true to yourself and on top of your shit. And that's just, I love people that are individuals and that are just like that, man. It's just the dopest thing I can imagine.
Thank you for coming over, and that's a long ways away, Arizona.
It's all good, man.
It's a whole other landscape.
Do it for the cause.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that, because hopefully this inspires
someone.
Yeah.
At least one student. Yeah. Like, okay, I want to learn how to play that. Like, okay, go see David.
And I'm just a student of all of these people, you know.
It's a rich history. All right, David, thanks a lot. And to the viewers of the PlayMariachi podcast, sorry that there's no more video. I'm a mariachi man, okay? So I can only afford so much. So we'll get the cameras and we'll get everything. You guys can still hear the audio. That's the whole point of a podcast anyway. So I want to say thanks to the viewers, thanks to YouTube, and thank you, David.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. Yeah, like jarana. Jarana's crazy. I don't even claim to play jarana because it's a crazy instrument and it's hard to play.
It's a syncopation. It's just off and on beat, off and on beat, off and on beat. It's like,
because it's I can't tune by ear no more.
Too much Jarocho music.
Yeah, jarana is crazy because I mean, like, you'll do a lot of things like carpinteros. So instead of going, there you go. Like that, back and forth, just straight. Back to the top. I mean, you'll do things like this.
dancers.
Yeah, you know, but I don't even play. My friend Roman, he plays jarana like a King Kong. Dude. He's bad.